And we are going to dive in tonight. I'm realizing I actually don't have my laptop set up, but while I do that, who wants to kick us off on stand-up? What did we learn yesterday? Jennifer, go for it.
There's way more to design and to wireframing than one would initially think. It takes a lot of thought, research.
Absolutely.
Definitely research, which I wouldn't have considered. And that there are a lot of different variations that you can go with. So it can take more time. Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. What else did we cover yesterday?
We talked about electronic vehicles for a bit.
Yes. What goes into an EV, how, right, I think it's important to identify that while we spend a lot of time on UI, there's more to UI that is that user experience, right? That UX. So yes, that touchscreen is important, and the thing that shows up on that touchscreen is important, but so is the user experience in terms of how you're interacting with it. Is it distracting on the road? Where is that display positioned? Are there any other physical controls that impact that screen, right? So little things like when I turn on my turn signal, well, that's user experience, right? That's a physical stalk. I'm going to push that down. What happens when I push it down? Does it stay down, right? Those are all parts of user experience that we may not think of because we're focused on that user interface, right? What actually shows up on the screen. But those two are interrelated, right? So all user interface is part of user experience, but not all user experience is part of user interface. And so kind of diving into that and breaking apart requirements. Anything else from yesterday that stood out, that was a light bulb moment, that you really liked, that you really hated? Anything that you felt passionate about on either end of the spectrum?
I really like learning about the Tesla's features, if I'm being honest, because, as we all discussed, we didn't really think it'd be safe to drive while I had to worrying about that big old tablet. But it seems that, they thought about these things, and it's a lot more safer than I thought it'd be, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. There was actually
I agree.
a problem. I forget what it was something that was not locked out, was supposed to be locked out, where they didn't want the user to be able to interface with it while they were driving the car. And they never intended to, but they forgot to lock that out. And so they pushed a software update out. And I think that's another thing we talked about yesterday, right? Software updates and how, while they are somewhat novel to the car industry of being able to update our software, it certainly is not novel to the software development industry, right? Where we're very used to rolling out software updates regularly, and dealing with the impact of those software updates in terms of release notes and being able to version them properly and rolling them out to people over time into different segments, and dealing with different versions of the hardware and all of that fun stuff. So a lot goes into it beyond just, the design aspect of it. Anything else from yesterday?
How to set up the monitors and work them properly?
Yes. So we got our layout figured out in system preferences. Hopefully we've got our monitors positioned the way we want to. The Mac should be pretty good about remembering that position, so when you plug it back in, but if you ever run into a problem where you drag your window over to the left and it's not showing up, and you drag it over to the right and it is, you can always go into system preferences and move that around. We also learned a little bit about the difference between extend mode and mirror mode, right? And how most of the time when we're using an external monitor, we want to be in that extend mode so we can use every inch of our screen real estate. But there are times that you would want to go into extend mode if you were working on a presentation or something like that, where you just wanted whatever was on the screen to show up on the projector.
Okay.
Anything else from yesterday?
C4 my code.
We set up, yep, the My Code folder on the desktop, and we set up, does anyone remember what the name of that file was that we added?
No sync.
We added the no sync file. And why did we add no sync?
So it doesn't sync with iCloud.
Yep, exactly. So when we get started, the first couple files we create, over the next couple weeks won't cause any issues. But over time, as we start creating more programming files, it turns out that those cloud synchronization services just are not built for those types of files. So that's why we created that no sync. And over time, we will work our way up to our version control software, VCS, called Git. And we'll be using GitHub to store all of our code up in the cloud. And we'll be getting into that a little bit later for talking about backup and cloud sync and all of that fun stuff. Anything else from yesterday? Okay, I know we did a terms review at the end of class, or at least we got those terms defined in there. So if you have any other terms that you would like to find, feel free to shout them out and I can add them into that doc. But with that said, we're going to dive into today's outline. And yes, we are finally going to get into some code today. So we're going to make our first HTML page, at least our first one in class. I know some of you probably have had limited or some experience working with HTML. If you don't, that's okay. If you are like completely lost during class, obviously let me know during the polls. Ariel should be here in any minute to dive in as the TA. In the meantime, feel free to send me any questions in chat. I will make sure to have that window open so I can reference that as we go. One thing I do want to mention, I did put together an example wireframe from last week's homework assignment, the one you did over the weekend. And this is kind of what the ultimate goal of a wireframe should be looking like, right? So if we zoom in here, now this wireframe I built off of my portfolio site, right? So this is in a shape where if I handed this over to a developer and they started building all of this out, whatever they came back with would say, all right, I met all the requirements. I have all the project information in here that I need, right? So your homework assignment does not need to look just like this because there are infinite ways that you can lay out content, but this kind of meets the general flow of a requirement, right? So, or the requirements of a wireframe, I should say. So it isn't necessarily all about color. My final fonts aren't in here. There isn't really any design aspect of it, but the general layout is in there. So, for the about section, I may not know what my about section is going to have in it, right? But I know roughly it's going to be a couple paragraph, a couple sentences, or about a paragraph. So what we end up doing is putting in what we call lorem ipsum. It's kind of just filler content. I see both your hands up. I will get to you in 1 second. So if we don't have that text already written out, we can just put in some filler just so we know what it will look like in the layout. And then if we do know what that content will look like, we can go ahead and put that in. So things like text inputs, we don't need the design fully done. Maybe we don't have as heavy as a border on it. Maybe we gray out some of this down the road in our mockup when we actually code it out. But we have the general idea here so that when we hand this to a designer, to a developer, the developer can know, oh, the first name field and the last name field should kind of show up next to each other. This send is going to be a button. We don't have a ton of styling on that button, but if we just look at this wireframe based off of general UI experience, we can know, hey, that's what a button normally looks like. And then down for the portfolio, something kind of similar, right? Maybe we don't have the screenshots yet. So the way we represent an image that we don't actually have yet is by putting in a rectangle and then putting an X in there to kind of cross that out. And then we've got our learn more button and our footer down at the bottom. So if I handed this to you, you could probably look at this and say, all right, I know what the final website would look like. Maybe I don't have all the colors figured out. Maybe there are design tweaks as I go. But for the most part, I could take this and go build this as a website. Obviously, you can't at this point. We will build our way up to that over the next couple weeks. And eventually, we will be building this portfolio site. So this is something that we will end up be building. But I realized that there were there were wireframes and mockups that were kind of all over the spectrum in terms of those homework submissions. And I realized that the assignment was not clear enough in order to say, hey, this is kind of what your end result should be. Even if you don't lay it out in the same way, right? Even if you put it on multiple pages, or there were lots of different ways to design this, there's nothing saying you couldn't put this contact form right underneath it, or you couldn't put the about section next to the contact section, or you can get creative in terms of your layout. But I was hoping that the end goal of this is that you can kind of get a better feel of what a final wireframe should look like. Jordan, go ahead with your question.
It is completely unrelated to this. I apologize. Did you post the week 2, day 2 outline?
I did now.
Thank you.
That was
You
my
should-
question.
If you just
Wait.
refresh the page, that should pop up. And I have day 3 and 4 done as well. So if you want to peek ahead, you are more than welcome to.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, always
you're
call
okay.
me out on that, because it's normally like literally a button click away for me. So if you guys can ever not get to the outline or anything, just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions about the wireframe before we move on? I did link to this file in the assignment, so if anyone is looking to redo the assignment and resubmit it, you should have access to this now. But like I said, if you got a 1.5 on that assignment, don't really worry about it. You got the basic flow of it down, and that's what really matters.
Is lorem ipsum made of different languages?
It is
Placeholder.
primarily Latin, I
Latin.
believe.
Yeah, and then some of it's also, yeah. I mean, it's the Romantic language. I was just wondering if you use anyone specifically.
Yeah, so if you just go to like, if you just do a Google search for lorem ipsum, the first one is normally the one that I use. And you can change the amount that gets generated, but if you just hit lorem ipsum generator, it will give you this. I forget, there's some background on it, but the general idea is that it has words of varying lengths. And there is, if you count the frequency of all of the letters, it amounts to the same number of letters in terms of letter frequency of all the words in the dictionary. So the general idea there is that like Z does not occur naturally in many normal English words. And so there are very few words in lorem ipsum that include a Z.
Yeah.
So there's some weird thing where like, obviously there are the most common letters are vowels. And you'll notice if you're working with lorem ipsum, it has a frequent number of vowels in it. But yeah, lorem ipsum is kind of always used as placeholder text. And so when you're working with designs and your client may not have given you the text that's supposed to show up there, lorem ipsum is kind of the universally recognized placeholder.
Okay. Thank you.
There's more science behind it than a random word generator than you would anticipate from a random word generator, but it is a good thing to use as a placeholder. Go ahead with your question, Kalai.
So my question is, so can we say that wireframing as like our first rough draft?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. So wireframing is definitely something not just in the context of class, but it's something that often gets done incrementally, right? So sometimes you'll have this wireframe and you go, it's beautiful, I've thought everything through, and you go to the client and the client goes, what is this? I don't want any of this. And it's like, okay, well, what would you like, right? So the joke is that when you're working with wireframes, not necessarily in Figma, but when you're saving those files, you save it as like wireframe, and then you save it as wireframe -2, then you save it as wireframe final, And then you save it as wireframe final. And then you go, well, wireframe final, I mean it this time, right? Because there's always that opportunity to do additional revisions. And so the wireframe is as much for you as a developer to go to a client and say, this is how I'm thinking about laying it out. Is this what you want? But it is also a great starting point for how we develop things out. So tomorrow, we'll take a mock-up, and before we write a single line of code, we're going to break that mock-up down into different sections. And then once we have those sections broken down, it becomes much easier to translate that into our code. But if we kind of just dive right into the code right from the beginning, getting things to lay out properly can be a challenge. And so we're going to start small. We're going to start with kind of like a gibberish site tonight, where we just practice with different HTML elements. Then we're going to get into CSS, a little bit more of our styling, of changing colors and layouts and sizes and borders and all of that fun stuff. And then tomorrow, we're going to dive into the weather app, where we actually build our first page that actually looks like something we could use. Any questions about where we're headed? Or any questions in general?
Question unrelated. I know personally, like with my own revisions, even I don't know what I want. So I get a ton of those. So I can't imagine working with a customer that doesn't know what they want. How do you go about that?
Yeah, so you keep on putting things in front of them until they say, yeah, that's what I want, right? So your first draft, you're either going to have a client who goes, yeah, sure, that looks great. I don't really care. I just want a website, go make it. Or you're going to have a client who comes back to you and uses Ariel's favorite phrase, can you make it pop a little bit more? And it's like, what? Could you tell me what pop means? And they go, I just want a little more pizzazz. And I'm just like, well, okay, well, the blue should be a little bit bluer. Well, what does that mean? Do you want them lighter? Do you want them darker? Like what? Well, there's just a lot of blue. Well, so you work with clients to kind of say, all right, let me get a little bit more familiar with it. Let me give you a different revision. Sometimes you say, hey, go out on the internet and go find a website that you really like, and I can model the design after that, right? And that can be a really good starting point as well. So if you're sitting in front of a blank wireframe or a blank mockup and you're like, I have no idea what I want this site to look like, sometimes it's better to go out and find someone else's site and say, oh, I really like this header. I really like how they've got this nav bar laid out and this full screen thing, right? And then you scroll down and you go, but I don't really like the rest of the site. So then you go out and you find another website, right? Because your client, chances are is not going to be the only business of that type. Oh, my client's a pizza place. Let me go look at pizza places in the area, go find a good website that I really like, and then maybe I'll model my site after that. It doesn't need to be identical to it, but that can also be a good source and starting point. Any other questions? Okay, we've got one final setup thing to do. It's only going to take us 10 minutes. Once we get all of that set up, we can finally start writing our own code. So I'm going to go down to my doc and I'm going to pop open VS Code. And if you don't have VS Code in your doc, you can always go to Finder and pop open your applications. And from your applications, you can open VS Code down here at the bottom and just double click on it, and that will also pop it open. Okay, let me just close some of this stuff out.
Can you also on the top right corner, under the spotlight search with the
Yep. So
magnifier, can you write it on there and I'll show up?
You can click on the spotlight and you're going to type in, you have to type out Visual Studio Code. You can't just do VS Code. But if you spell out Visual Studio Code and hit enter, that will also open the application. And a little pro tip for you guys, if you want to get to that same spotlight search to switch between things quickly or pop something open, you can hit Command and the space bar. That will also open up the spotlight search. And if you do a search for something like Chrome, it will pop open Chrome for you. And that also can be a quick way to switch between applications, is Command space, type in what you want, hit enter, and that will pop it right open. Another reminder for you guys, if you hit Command Tab, that will also switch you between your applications. And if you keep holding Command and hit Tab another time, that will bring that application to the forefront.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so now that we're in our VS Code, we need to get our file structure down. So what we're going to do, oh, nope, before we do files, sorry, there's an extension we need to install. So we're going to go down to this square looking thing with 4 squares inside of it, and then one of them kind of coming out. And we're going to click on extensions. From there, we are going to do a search for live share and hit enter. And then this top live share, right up here, you should have an install button where my gear is. Go ahead and click on that install button. I think I can. I uninstall it. So I'm going to do a search. Let me do this one while I'm at it.
Is it the real-time collaborative?
Yeah, it should say, give me 1 second. It should be the top search result. So if you do live share, it should say 26.2 million in the top right. And that's the one that you want to click install on.
That's not my first one. That's like my 4th.
If it helps, it's the one that is just live share. Like
That's
the other
because
ones
you-
have like live share with something else.
Oh,
like-
sorry,
You typed live search.
Thank you. Sorry. If you do live share, it should have, oh, that's interesting. It should be the one with Microsoft with the green check mark and say 9.9 million. Sorry, I led you in the wrong direction there. Live server is what we are going to install next. So if you go ahead and click on that install button, it will say install and you're good to go there. And then the other one is we're going to do a search for live server. And that's the one with 26.2 million. And that we also want to install. So I'm going to launch a poll here. The poll is asking, were you able to get those 2 extensions installed? Okay, talk to me. Who's lost? Who needs help? Patrick?
How did you get to the live search or the live server one you said?
So the extensions over here on the left, click on that. And then up at the top, you're going to do a search for live server and for live share. And those should get you to the 2 different extensions.
You said search up at the top, or where it says for history.
Are you in extensions over here on the left side?
You're here. Go to the 4 squares right there.
Oh, that's fine.
Yep, and then type in live share.
You go inside. Did I see you were lost as well?
And then you're gonna want to do the live server by
so
right click there, so
it's-
install that.
Can you show me the live share one again, just so I
Yep.
can see it on the screen on the big one? Because I want to make sure that it's the right one.
It's going to have the check mark for Microsoft and then say a certain number of downloads up here.
9.9.
Mine
Because it-
says,
Mine has 3 or 4 of the live share.
Like I said, if it helps, there's a bunch of live shares, but the one we're downloading is the one that just says live share. If you click on the other ones, they'll say like live share audio or live share something. Just the
Like-
one that says just live share.
yeah, so
Okay.
you want the one that has 9.9 million downloads. That's
Yep.
the one that you want.
Okay, I got the right one. Thank you.
Cool. Schneider, go ahead.
Is there a difference between the live share and the live preview?
Yeah, so we don't need live preview. We only need live server and live share.
Gotcha.
Bobby, go ahead.
For some reason, it's not popping up in my like when I type it in the search bar, it's not coming like the drop down. For some reason.
Okay. Are you in the extensions over here on the left?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look.
Is it up? I can't tell.
No, it did not come through yet. So if you do the green share down at the bottom, the share screen button, and then double click on desktop 1, that should bring it through.
Yeah, I had to do everything. So Zoom, because I didn't do screen share yet, so it says I had to quit and reopen.
Yeah, so do you remember the steps that we did in person for open system preferences and checking that off?
For quit and reopen?
Yeah, so does it say something about system preferences and privacy?
Yeah, I'm in system preferences, not security and privacy. And then I click the unlock button on the bottom to bring up to share it. And it says Zoom.us will not be able to record the contents of your screen until it's quit. You could choose to quit Zoom now or do it on your own later.
So you can do it later. That actually lies to you. You can go back into Zoom and start your screen share now without having to quit and restart it.
Okay.
Okay, so if you clear out the live share up at the top, why is that not loading? Let's try this. Go ahead and hit Command Q, which is going to quit out of VS Code. And then hit Command Space or just reopen VS Code. Were you able to get that back open? Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. Okay, now click on your extensions over on the left again. And there we go. Now that's what we needed. So you can do live share. And it's going to be that first one. Go ahead and hit install. And then if you live server 4 down from there with the 26.2 million, and you are good to go.
Cool. Thanks.
No problem. I saw another I'm lost vote pop in. Can I help someone else? Everyone good? Everyone get those extensions installed? I know it's kind of...
It's Alondra. So I'm having trouble with, I have to log into VS Code. I can't.
So if you shouldn't have to sign in, but if it gives you an option to sign in with GitHub, it's safe to go ahead and create a GitHub account there. We will be needing that down the road. In fact, we might actually even need it.
I have one.
Okay.
So just sign into GitHub and then from GitHub, it'll give me a link to sign in to VS Code because I should already have an account with VS Code.
So you can't create a VS Code account. You can sign in using GitHub into VS Code, but there is no like specific VS Code account itself.
Okay.
If you want to share your screen, I can take a look.
Oh, how do I do that? Hold on. Okay.
So in Zoom, down at the bottom, there's the green share screen button.
And I have to allow it. It's making me restart Zoom. Okay.
So if you
Um,
go through the same steps Bobby did, so it is important for everyone else to listen, because the problems that you're running into may be a problem the student right before you just had, right? So I know this is like, it's easy to zone out during these steps, but during the first couple weeks, the problems that you run into will be the exact same problems that other students are having as well. So on that quit and reopen, just hit do it later. Because it actually lies to you. You don't actually need to quit. Now, when you go back into Zoom, you
oh, it
should.
says sharing.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. So you're good to go there. So go down to VS Code down at the bottom in your doc.
It's already open. Am I sharing?
You are sharing the one that says security and privacy right now.
Hold on, let me share all of them.
Sure.
I would like to share all of them.
Oh,
Real quick.
you can only share one at a time. Okay,
Okay.
so yep, you're good to go there. Okay, so if you go over to the extensions over on the left-hand side, that's the rectangles. Yep. From there, you can do a search for live share. And go ahead and install that. And then also do a search for live server. And you can get that, and you're good to go. You're all caught up now.
Yay, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else need help?
Hey, so I'm gonna add this to the outline for the live share and live server. There were a couple questions. So everybody else seems to be caught up now, but if there's anything else you want to throw to me, Max, let me know.
No,
In
I'm
that for
good.
the outline. Okay.
Okay, so let me share my screen again. Okay, now that we've got this installed, we are going to create our first file. But before we create our first file, it's important to remember where we're at. We're in this My Code folder, right? And over time, we're going to have a ton of code in here. So I would rather just have open the day that we're working on instead of having the entire capstone open. I'm sorry, the entire class's worth of assignments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File and down to Open Folder. Important not to get open. We want Open Folder here. And I'm going to go to my C4 My Code folder. And up at the top here, there are different layouts, right? So I really like mine in columns because every folder that I open, it kind of just slides me over a little bit. If you prefer a list or icon, that's also totally fine, whatever tickles your fancy. So in my C4 My Code folder, I'm going to go down to the new folder button here, and I'm going to create a new folder called W2, right? That's for week 2. Now that my week 2 folder has been created, I'm going to create another new folder, making sure my W2 is selected, and I'm going to create day 2, D2. And remember, we don't like spaces in file names or folder names, so we just avoid spaces altogether. Now that I've got this D2 created and I got that selected in blue, I'm going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to hit open. Anyone need help? You should see the D2 show up in the top left side of our VS Code.
Yeah, you went too fast.
Okay.
Oh, you're gonna do
File, open folder.
Okay.
Then you're going to get into your My Code folder, which is on your desktop.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to go down to new folder.
Mm.
And you're going to create a folder called W2. Then you're going to repeat that step to create your day 2 folder inside your week 2 folder. Schneider, go ahead.
Really dumb question. Do you care if I spell it out instead of just seeing the letter?
You can spell it out. I just don't want to see spaces in the name, but if you would prefer WEEK2 and DAY2, that's totally fine.
Okay.
There
Not
was
a dumb
also a question. There was a question about camel space or caps as well.
We'll do all lowercase for these. We'll get into casing a little bit later, but all lowercase is the preferred way for right now. Any other questions?
Yeah, Max.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I tried to follow along both times, but I only got as far as opening the file window.
Okay, so in open folder, you're going to go to your desktop over on the left-hand side.
Desktop. Okay.
From there, we're going to pop open the C4 My Code folder. And then from there, we can create new folder down here at the bottom.
Open desktop folder. Open. Okay, so I've got a blank screen.
Okay, so you double clicked on C4 My Code, or you opened My Code?
Mhm.
Okay, so there's nothing in the My Code folder yet. That's okay. So what you want to do is click on New Folder down at the bottom.
There it is.
And now you can create your W2 folder. And then you're going to rinse and repeat on that, right? So you want to open the W2 folder and create your D2 folder.
Okay.
And then once you finally get into that white screen in the day 2 folder, you can go ahead and hit open down at the bottom. Anyone else need help?
I do, Max.
Okay, where are you at?
All right, so I went down to Finder. I clicked on the left to desktop.
Okay, we're not in Finder at all. So we need to be doing all of this in VS Code.
That's probably where I'm messing up. Okay.
So in VS Code, we're going to go to File up at the top and down to Open Folder.
All right, hold on. Okay, desktop. Open. Do I trust authors? Yeah, trust. Okay. All right, hold on. Go back into.
So in VS Code,
Okay, I'm watching your screen now. Mhm.
you can go to File up at the top and down to Open Folder.
Okay, file. Open folder.
Okay, from here, you're going to click on Desktop over on the left-hand side,
Okay,
and you're going to find your My Code folder.
it's not in there. Did we do this yesterday?
We did.
That's why. Okay.
So I'm going to actually move you over to the a breakout room with Ariel, and she
Okay.
can help you get that set up.
Okay.
And Ariel, just create the .nosync file once you get that open, which is at the top level of the C4 My Code folder.
Okay, no problem.
See you guys in a couple minutes.
Okay.
Bobby, it probably automatically opened the C4 My Code folder for you because it was the last folder that you had open. So because we had it opened yesterday, that's why it automatically opened it today. Now tomorrow it will automatically open the week 2 day 2 folder. Any other questions? If we get lost here, you will be lost for the next 2 hours. So we definitely want to answer any questions that pop up. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are in our D2. We should have our D2 showing up in VS Code. That's showing us that we're in the day 2 folder. We're going to create our first file. So we're going to click this little new file button, and it pops up this text box. This is saying, what do you want to call the file? We're going to call the file index.html. It's a very specific file name. It is telling the computer, this is our home page. So the computer knows, hey, the index is where we go when this website first loads. So we're going to call that index.html, and we're going to hit enter. And now we get to dive in.
Wait,
So,
wait,
Yep,
hold on. You said under D2, you're gonna create a new,
new file.
okay, got you.
And then you're going to call it index.html, and that's going to pop that open for you.
Thank you.
Now we're going to get started in these file contents over here. So we're going to write our first HTML tag. An HTML tag, sometimes it's called an element, is the syntax that the browser needs in order to get started. Most tags have a closing tag to go with them. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create that little arrow. You may not have ever used that before. It is shift comma to get that to show up. That is called your opening tag. And we're going to type in the letters HTML, hypertext markup language. And then we are going to put a shift and a period for the closing tag. And notice what VS Code did for us. We didn't type in that /HTML, but because we created a complete opening tag, VS Code automatically put our closing tag in for us. That is really annoying to get started, but when you start realizing that the computer is helping you out and putting those closing tags in for you, it will be much more helpful over time because you won't forget about those closing tags. Schneider, go ahead.
We should have our no sync file on VS Code, right?
No, because we're down in that day 2 folder, the no sync will automatically prevent anything that is in the my code folder and anything in other folders inside that folder from syncing. So the no sync won't show up if you've got the day 2 folder open, because no sync is higher up in the file structure.
Gotcha.
What was the second shift?
Period. So we've got our opening arrow, we've got the letters HTML and our closing arrow, and that put in our closing tag for us. Now there are 3 parts to HTML page structure. There is the HTML tag itself. All of our HTML code goes inside that HTML tag. Then we break that out into 2 pieces. One is going to be called the head. If I hit enter, that gives me a little bit more space. The head is giving the browser more information about this HTML page that we're about to create. This, whatever is in the head, doesn't normally show up for the end user. Whatever is in the head is telling the browser more information about the details of this page, how it's supposed to be styled, what the tab name is, all of that kind of fun stuff. So we've got our head tag. We are going to.
I'm sorry, can you say how you did head again?
So same way we did HTML. We did the shift and the comma. We typed in the word head. We put our shift and the period in for our closing arrow. That automatically put in our closing tag for us. And we hit enter, and that kind of spaces everything out.
Mine did not do that.
My line 1 has 2 HTMLs.
So hit enter, and that's going to move that HTML down, right? This is just a text editor in Word, just like Microsoft Word or Google Docs or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just put your cursor where you want, hit the enter button, and that will move it down.
Okay.
How did you get them out? How did you get them between the HTMLs?
So just put your mouse there. So we're going to do HTML, and that put in the closing tag for me. And when I have my cursor here, I'm going to hit the enter button, and now that moves me down. So whenever we go inside a tag, we indent one level deeper. So you see that it not only put a new line in for me, it actually moved my cursor over what we call a tab level. So we're going to practice. We're going to do our head, right, which is our shift comma. I type in the word head, and when I put my closing arrow in, it's going to automatically put my entire closing head tag in. So now that my cursor is in between those two, I can just hit the enter button, and it will move that down for me.
Mine does not look like that.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen.
Also, would you mind just going over that for me one more time? I was just helping Patrick with his, my apologies.
Sure. So we can fix this, right? By if you put your cursor in front of that opening head tag. So if you click on right in front of the arrow on line 2.
Okay, in front, yep.
Yep, and hit the tab key.
Oh, so you just want me to go back?
Yep.
And that's it.
That's it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let me, yep.
You're good to go.
Thank you.
Okay, going over this one more time for Jordan. What we are going to do is inside of our index.html, it's going to start out as a blank file. You're going to do your shift comma, which is going to give you your opening arrow. And we're going to type in the letters HTML and do a shift period. And that's going to put in not only our closing arrow, but the matching closing tag. So if I hit enter, not only does it move me down to the next line, it indents me a little bit, because anytime we work inside a tag, we go one level of indentation deeper. So now we're going to practice that again, but instead of putting HTML in there, we're going to put in the words head. Now, whatever's in the head doesn't actually show up to the end user. This is just giving the web browser more information about how our page should show up. We're going to come back to the head section in a minute. The other important section is going to be the body section. So I'm going to put my cursor at the end of line 4. These are the line numbers that you guys are going to fall in love with, right? Because it allows you to compare your line number to my line number and make sure you're on the right page. So we're going to move our cursor to the end of line 4, and we're going to hit enter. And notice the VS Code did the right thing. It put my cursor right underneath the head tag because we're outside of the head. We don't need to be indented. But we need to be one level indented because we're still in the HTML. So from here, we're going to type in body and hit enter, and that's going to show something up. Now, inside our body, we're going to say hello world. And we're going to hit save, which is Command S. Very, very important that we save because we, sorry. It's important that we save because oftentimes we'll be looking at our browser and we're like, I'm looking at that code. Why is that code not working? It actually will be working, but you have to save the file in VS Code before we can look at it in the browser. So now that we've got this working, we need to be able to test it. And we're going to take a break in a minute and I'll go back through if anyone has questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Finder. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to open up my C4 My Code folder. I'm going to open up week 2, and I'm just double clicking to get through all of these. And here's my index.html, right? So whatever we see over on the left-hand side here in VS Code is going to show up in Finder, right? Those two applications are talking to each other. VS Code is just showing us what Finder has in it. So we are going to double click on index.html, and you should see, maybe a little tiny, our hello world. Believe it or not, that is the basics of our first website. If you don't have that, that's okay. I'm going to launch the poll. And so if you can see hello world in your browser, then you are good to go.
I have a question.
Yes.
I was trying to fix mine and then I forgot about, I didn't hear the body.
Okay, so it's going to look just like our head, except we're going to put hello world inside of it.
So you have head, and then you make the body, okay, so comma, body. I don't put body, I put hello world.
Nope. So you're going to put the body tag, and then inside the body, you're going to put hello world. And Ariel made a good point. We've got 2 I'm lost votes, but we can't see who actually is lost. Trust me, if I could turn that on in Zoom, I would. So if you are lost, just go ahead and raise your hand just so we can help you get caught up. Artel, go ahead.
Okay, I was trying to follow on and follow along. Do I create a D2 folder inside of the W2 folder?
You do, yes.
Okay, so that's what I was trying to do to get caught up.
And then inside that day 2 folder, you're going to create a new file called index.html.
After I write hello world, what do I do? How do I save it or go to the
You're
next?
going to hit Command S to save. And then you're going to go to Finder.
Wait, I'm on the hello world like line.
Okay, you're going to go to Finder next. After you hit Command S, you're going to go down to the dock and open Finder.
Okay.
From there, you're going to click on Desktop over on the left. And then you need to open the file. So
I don't have desktop on the left. I have iCloud Drive or shared.
scroll up.
No.
You have do you have favorites?
In Finder? Like it says recent. Hold on. Oh, maybe, I don't know. Hold on.
You want to share your screen?
Mine don't, yeah.
Go ahead. Okay, so find where it says favorites on the screen. And go ahead and click on favorites. Oh, scroll up to the top.
Oh, I did not see that. It was, got you. Gosh, okay. Oh. Oh, nice, sweet. Okay,
Good to go.
thank you.
Artel, did you get caught up or do you need help?
I might need some help. All right.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look.
All right. Hold on.
Okay, so I mean, I'm going to request remote control and we're going to get you caught up, which will be a
Go
good
for it.
review for everyone. Okay, so from here, you've got your folder created, but we're in the My Code folder in VS Code, right? And we want to just focus in on that day 2 folder. So what I'm going to do is in our VS Code. Why is it not?
Are you able to get control or no?
It doesn't look like I can.
All right. Does it ask me for
So if you go to System Preferences and then or hit Open System Preferences and then click on the lock on the bottom left.
Wait, hold on. I think I backed out of it. Okay.
And then check off Zoom.
Okay.
And let me see. That did it. Okay. So what we're going to do is in our VS Code, we're going to go File, Open Folder. We're going to pop open to that day 2 level, and we're going to hit that on open. Now we've got our day 2 over here. We know we're buried down into that file, that folder. So we're going to hit New File, and we're going to create a file called index.html. From here, we're going to put in our first HTML tag. We're going to use the Shift comma button to create our opening arrow. Then we're going to type in the words HTML, and then we're going to put in our closing one. You can go ahead and practice, go ahead, Artel, and do the Shift comma and type in the word head. And then hit enter. And that's going to get our head tag set up. We're not actually going to put anything in there. So if you put your cursor on the end of line 4 and hit enter there, we're going to create another tag called body. Good work. Hit enter. And then you can go ahead and type in the words hello world in there. Perfect. Whenever we are done our code and want to go test it, we need to remember to save. So go ahead and hit Command S for me.
Command S.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. And then from there, we can go ahead and actually open this code up. So I am going to switch you back over to your Finder here. I'm going to pop open your My Code, your week 2, your day 2. I'm going to double click on index.html, and you are all caught up and good to go. There's your hello world.
Okay.
One second. Okay, so now that we've got our hello world working, we've got a couple different tags that we've been exposed to so far, right? We've got our head and our body, but we've got a lot more tags that we can use both in the head and the body to get our content styled a little differently. So if I want this hello world to show up as a heading, I can use the H1 tag. And Bobby, yes, you can definitely play with this on your own. I'm not going to touch on all the different elements in the outline, but we are going to touch on a couple of them, and then on the others, you're welcome to play around on your own. So instead of having this hello world here, I'm going to put my cursor at the beginning of the H. I'm going to do a new arrow, an opening arrow, and I'm going to say H1 and close that arrow off. Now, what that did for me is it put in that closing H1 tag, but I don't want that closing H1 tag there. I want the closing H1 tag to be at the end of my hello world. So I'm going to highlight that H1 tag, and I'm going to go hit Command X, which is going to cut it. I am then going to put my cursor at the end, and I'm going to Command V it, and that will paste it in for me. Now, this is where we want to juggle our windows, right? So I'm going to take my window and snap it over here on the left-hand side. And then I'm going to take my other window and snap it over here on the right-hand side. That's going to let me see both of them. Now, if I come back over to my browser and I refresh, my hello world has gotten bigger and bold because it is now that H1, that heading size. Schneider, go ahead. Karen, I see you next.
2 questions. One, I see your browser automatically opens up to Chrome. Mine opens up to Safari. Should I set it to Chrome?
If you want to, you can. Later this week, we'll get everyone downloaded on Chrome and switched over to that as their default browser. But for right now, Safari is completely fine to use for today's class.
Okay. Secondly, is the Command X thing different than just like Command C?
Command C is for copy. Command X is for cut. So if you want to remove it and then paste it in later, so like if we Command C this, it stays in place, right? and then I can go somewhere else and paste it, and the original one still stays there. But
Gotcha.
if I want to highlight this and hit Command X, it's going to remove that from the file. And then when I paste it, it's going to show back up where my cursor is. So Command X and Command C are slightly different. One's going to remove the original, one's going to leave the original in its place, but they both use that Command V for paste.
Got you. All good now. Thank you.
Karen.
Yes, would you be able to go back to, oh boy, the command?
Yes. So we had the words hello world here, right? And what we want to do is enclose that hello world in a tag. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our cursor at the beginning, and we're going to do a shift comma to get our opening arrow in there. And we're going to type in the letter H and the number 1. That's for heading 1. And then we're going to do a shift period, and that's going to not only put in our closing arrow, but VS Code is going to drop a couple things in there for us. It's going to drop in this closing tag.
Yeah.
The problem is we don't want that closing tag there. We want it at the other end of our hello world. So our hello world is inside of the tag. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight that H1, but only the closing part of it. We are then going to hit Command X, which is going to cut it out. Then we are going to put our cursor at the end of the hello world line, at the end of the D, and we're going to hit Command V to paste it.
Got it. Thank you.
Then when we save that with a Command S and go over to our browser, we should see it show up in bold. So we can practice. There is an H1 all the way down to an H6. Don't ask me why it stops at 6. They thought that 6 headers were enough. So we can practice this with this is a slightly smaller header. And we can do an H6 with this is a tiny header. And if we save that, come back over to our browser and Command R, we can see our different header sizes. So go ahead and practice that. If I'm going to launch a poll here, if you are caught up and you have an H1 and an H3 and an H6, you are all caught up and can vote yes in the poll. If you are lost, do not vote for lost. Just raise your hand in Zoom and we'll come back and help you. Agonza, go ahead.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna share my screen because I don't know if I'm doing this.
Hold on. Go ahead.
I can't seem to make it bigger. I'm gonna remove this really quick. I went to Visual Code, and this is H1. Hello world. H1.
You're not sharing your screen.
Oh, I'm not. Okay, sorry. I thought I was.
Sometimes I have to completely end my screen share before you guys can start it.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that all looks good there.
So when I press Command S for save.
Yep.
And then now I go to file.
Nope. You're going to switch back over to the browser.
The browser.
Yeah, so Safari or Chrome, whichever one you have open, just click. Yeah, there you go. So do you have index.html open in your browser yet?
No.
Okay.
I just removed it.
Okay, so go there, double click on that, on the index.html. And there's your hello world. That actually is in bold. So that is working.
Okay.
If you add your H3 and your H6, you'll be able to compare it to the other two and see that it is working.
Gotcha. I didn't know. I thought it was going to be bigger like it was on your screen.
Oh, I've got mine way blown up because I know that when I share my screen, it's tinier on yours. So I try and zoom in on mine, but that's a good question.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
I am.
How do you make what I'm looking at when I'm looking at your screen over here bigger? Because I can't see anything that you're doing. Like it's super small, like an ant.
So you can grab the corner of the Zoom window and drag it all the way out so it's much bigger. And so I'll also copy and paste this into the live stream channel.
Can you show me the layout again? Where I want to make sure I have it right.
You mean this?
The Hello World H1, and then, oh, I don't have the H3 or H6. I have body HTML. Oh, okay. So
if you pop open Slack and open the live stream channel, I just put a copy of my code in there. So we put it in Slack and we're about to start a live share. So you guys will be able to see my code after break. But for now, I put a copy of it in there just so other students can share their screens and you guys can still reference the code. Okay, Karen, go ahead.
Would you be able to, how did you split your screen again?
Yep. So if you have the Rectangle app installed, if you grab any window at the top of it, no matter what size it is, and click and drag it over until it's at the corner of your screen, you can let go of it and that should snap it in. You kind of have to be in the center right side of your screen. And you got to be careful if you've got your second monitor over there, sometimes it will slide over into the second monitor. So if it does, bring it back onto the monitor that you want it to be on and just go a little bit slower when you get to the edge and give it a second to pop up. And then when you let go of it, it will snap into the right size. Doing it on the edges of your extended monitors makes it a little bit trickier. And then it should be easier for the code one. If you grab that up at the top and go over to the left and let go, that will snap it in. All right, who else has questions?
I have a
I
question.
do.
Okay,
Go
just
ahead,
raise your
Jordan.
hand, guys, so that we can make sure we get to you guys in the right order. So whoever has your questions, go ahead and raise your hand, and then that way we can call on people in the order that they raise their hands. Artel, go ahead.
Okay. I did the H1, the H3, and the H6.
Yep.
I'm having difficulty doing the snap because that's how my second screen is like to the right. So it's just sliding over. So I'm gonna have to like kind of like practice that. But how do I see how the result came out again?
So do you have it open in a web browser? Either
I do.
Safari or Chrome?
Yes.
Okay, so just click the refresh button in that browser.
Okay, hold on. Nothing. Nope, just the original still.
Okay, so go back over to your VS Code.
Okay.
Did you remember to save the file with either a Command S or a file save?
I did not.
Okay.
All right, I just did it.
Okay, now go back over to the browser and hit refresh.
Boom, there it is. Okay.
Work.
Control S, that's the key.
Command S. We don't like controlling things on the Mac. We like commanding things.
I'm sorry, yes. Command S.
Kalai, go ahead.
So every time I give a new code, I need to save, right? So
Correct.
every time, okay.
Yep.
I think that's it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Could you go over the autosave feature?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oops. Don't read the chat then.
Okay, ready to move on? All right. Oh, yep.
No, I'm saying I think so. I'm sorry. I forgot
okay.
to myself again.
You're fine. You're fine. Okay. So now we get to play with a couple other tags, right? So we've got our heading tags, our H1 through our H6. What about non-headings? That goes in a P tag. The P tag stands for paragraph. So we can say this text goes in the first paragraph. And I'm going to place my cursor at the end of the P tag. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to create another P tag. And And I'm going to say this is in the second paragraph. So up here, you see how there's that dot there next to the index.html? That's telling me I didn't save my file. So when I come over to here and I hit the refresh button, it's not going to show up. I need to come back into my VS Code and hit Command S, and you'll notice that dot disappeared and became an X instead. When it's the X, that is telling us our file is up to date and properly saved. So when I come back over to my browser and refresh, I can see this text goes in the first paragraph, and this is in a second paragraph. And even if I expand my window back out there, they aren't going to be right next to each other. That's good. We don't want them right next to each other. Those are two separate paragraphs. If we did want them next to each other, we could put a period here and say this is the second sentence in the first paragraph. I'm going to remember to save there. And when I come back over to my browser and refresh, now that shows up properly. So you don't necessarily have to be coding along with me here. As long as you're getting the concepts, it is good to get the practice. It's good to create the tags, but don't worry about it being word for word at this point, right? You're not turning in this assignment at the end of class. It's good to get the practice, but you don't have to get all of the words into it. If you want to just put in the word paragraph instead of, typing out this is the first sentence of the paragraph or something like that, that is totally fine. Okay, so we have already seen that we have tags inside of tags. We have this p tag, and that is inside of this body tag. This body tag is inside of the HTML. How do we know that? Not only is it between the closing tag and the opening tag, so therefore it must be inside of it, we also are starting to realize that this indentation is trying to show us something. Every time we go one level deeper, we're inside a parent tag. In other words, this p tag is a child of the body tag, which would be the parent. So the body tag, the parent tag, has a p tag in here. But this p tag is actually a grandchild of the HTML tag. The HTML is what we consider a top level tag. It's all the way up at the top. Inside of that HTML tag, it has a body tag, which is the child. And then inside the body, it has a p tag, which is the grandchild. While we're writing our HTML, you will find sometimes you get 20 or 30 levels deep of nesting all of this code inside of each other. Don't worry, we'll only get 4 or 5 deep throughout the cohort. One good example of this is when we want to use, oh yeah, go ahead, Patrick.
Okay. The only thing that I'm having a problem with is that I have everything that is showing that you have here. I'll share my screen.
Yep.
But
oh, hold on, I gotta stop mine first. Okay, go for it.
Okay, my bad. Oh wait, do you see it or no?
No, not yet.
Okay, now do you see it? No, it's just shared.
Oh, now you're good to go.
Okay, so I believe I have everything right, but when I command save.
Okay, so just click into that text file and then try a Command S again.
Like this?
Yep. And then hit Command S. Now it actually went through and saved. Whenever you save, you just want to make sure your cursor is in the right spot.
Yeah, but you see, look, it still doesn't say the rest of the stuff you have.
So hit the refresh button. Okay, now I'm confused. Let me request remote control. You're gonna have to go open system preferences. Click on the lock in the bottom left. Put your finger on the sensor or use password. Check off Zoom for me. Okay, and now I can take control.
Okay, cool.
So I am wondering my code D2 index.html. I pop this open.
This is so cool. Okay, there we go. Now, what was the problem? What did I do?
So here's what's going on. If you look at your Finder, if you go all the way up to your desktop, you've got a C4 My Code, and then you've got a week 2 folder not in the My Code folder.
Oh, wait, no, it does. It's just my bad. I just accidentally dragged it by accident. Because look, you open it, I got the W2.
Yeah, so you've got 2
it's just a
copies of
copy.
it though. So in your My Code folder, this is what you had open. This is your hello world. This is
Okay,
what
so
was
just
showing in
delete
the
it?
browser. So if
Okay.
we delete that one, we can go back and rescue the index.html in this folder. And this is the one that has everything in it.
All right.
So I'm going to not only copy that into the right spot and paste it, I'm going to go back up and get rid of this floating one.
Okay.
And then we're going to go close both of these just so we don't get anything mixed up.
Okay.
We're going to go into Finder and open the right one. And then the last thing we want to do is make sure we've got the right one open in VS Code as well. So if I, that's not what I meant to do. If I open up Visual Studio Code and see how this is red, this is the deleted one. So we're going to just close this and open up the My Code week 2 day 2 index.html. We're actually going to open up that folder. And now you've got everything going on here. So if we like just delete the exclamation point, hit save, come over here and hit refresh, our exclamation point is gone.
Okay.
So yeah, you were in 2 separate files. You had one open in VS Code and then the other one open up in the browser.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
No.
From anyone else, any questions? Okay, so now we're going to practice with, we want to put in what we call an ordered list. In other words, we would like a list to show up with 1, 2, and 3 in front of them. But before we can use an LI, a list item, we need to tell it what kind of list item that is. So what we're going to do is we are going to create an OL tag, an ordered list. So I did my shift comma, I typed in OL, I did my shift period, that automatically put in my closing tag for me, and then I hit enter so that I could move that cursor down onto the next line. From here, I'm going to put in a list item, and my list item is going to say list number 1, and I'm going to just copy this code, highlight the whole thing, copy it, put my cursor at the end of the line. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to paste it 2 more times. I am then going to say 2, 3, remember to save. And when I come back over to my browser and refresh, I get 1, 2, and 3. Well, where did those 1, 2, and 3 come from here? That is because we put them in an ordered list.
Oh.
I'm going to do one more example of this, and then we'll pause to take a poll. So I'm going to copy that whole ordered list and paste it again. But instead of having an ordered list, I want an unordered list. So I'm going to change that to a U, but now we've got a problem. We've confused the browser. It sees a UL opening tag here, and it says, great, we'll put in all of these list items here. What it's going to struggle with is, wait, what's this closing OL tag? There is no closing OL. There is an open UL. We need to also change our closing tag to match the opening tag up here. So we're going to come down here and change that to a U as well. When we save and come over and refresh in our browser, we now get bullets instead, because this is an ordered list, 1, 2, 3. What's the opposite of an ordered list? An unordered list. And now we get our bullet points instead. So we're going to stop and we're going to poll there. Hopefully in your browser, if you've got your 1, 2, and 3, and your list items, and then your bullet points also showing up, you are all caught up and good to go. If anyone needs help, please don't vote I'm lost. Just raise your hand and we'll help you through it. Artel, go ahead.
All right, I tried to do the shift.
What?
To try to do the OL and then have the space to put the list in. It didn't do that for me.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look.
Okay.
So when it puts in that closing tag for you and your cursor is in between it, you need to hit the enter button to move that down onto the next line.
All right, can you see my screen now?
Yes. So go ahead and just delete out everything on that OL line and we'll get some practice.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and do a opening tag and do your OL and your closing arrow. And now that put your cursor right between the two of them. So in order to get onto that next line, go ahead and hit enter. And that will move your OL down for you and get you in your right spot to do your first LI.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to do this 2 more times.
Yes. And
All
then
right.
once you get that working, you can move on to that same exact code, except instead of an OL, you want to use a UL or vice versa.
So should I just copy this and then hit enter a couple of times?
Yep, that's fine.
Hold on. All right. Command C. What did I just do? All right.
I'm gonna let you work on that and catch up. I'm also going to put in the live stream channel the code as we have it. So if you need to reference what it looks like, you can just pop over to the live stream channel and take a look of it there. Brandon, go ahead.
Just a quick question. So, I remember you said earlier that, if you had the OL tag I don't know how I'm wording this, but if you had the ordered list tag to start and then the unordered list to end, if you were to still go on as normal and save it, what would happen?
Yeah, so the browser tries to be forgiving. If it's at the end of the document, the browser goes, oh, I don't really care. There's nothing coming after this, so it's not a big deal. Sometimes you'll get into a situation where like you'll do a P tag and it will show up as a bullet and you're like, whoa, why is my paragraph in a bullet? It shouldn't be there. And that oftentimes is because we don't have a matching closing tag. There are a lot of websites on the internet that have what we call invalid or HTML with syntax errors, right? In that we have an opening tag and no closing tag. And the browser, like I said, tries to be forgiving. It tries to kind of be like, you missed it. It's no big deal. We got what you meant. But sometimes you end up in a situation where you're like, I want this on the left side and this on the right-hand side. Why aren't they there? And that's often because of our closing tag. So it's not the end of the world. The browser is like not going to make the computer burst into flames if we don't have that tag. But there are HTML validators that are tools where you can put your HTML into that and have it tell you, hey, you missed a closing tag here, or hey, you used an image and it needs additional attributes on it or stuff like that, which we'll get to down the road. Alba, go ahead.
So I was able to do the order list and then the list, but all of my numbers stayed number 1.
Okay, so go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look. So you want to make sure you've got your opening and closing tags, right? Because this is actually feeding into, oh, okay. So in my code, you'll notice, actually, click into your browser and hit into VS Code and hit save, Command S. And then pop back over to your browser and hit Command R to refresh.
Command R.
Yes. So you got your right 1, 2, and 3 showing up right here. And then if you wanted these to change 1, 2, and 3, you would have to change them right here.
Okay, so I would manually have to do them. It won't change automatically in the line.
Correct. Now, if you deleted this line altogether, this one right here would automatically become 2.
Okay.
So what the LIs are doing is they're controlling these numbers right here. They aren't controlling these numbers here.
Okay, so the list is correct. It's just showing number ones in the code itself.
Correct. Yes.
All right, thank you.
No problem. I know we're butting up against break time, but anyone else have questions? Last
My
chance for
question
questions. Yep,
has to do with
go
the-
ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying my question has to do the
Schneider, you're breaking up a little bit.
terminology. Should I write it in the chat instead?
No, you're good now. You were just breaking up at the beginning. Just repeat your question.
Yeah, syntax and elements. So are the HTML head and bodies, are those the elements or the syntax?
So they're both, right? The syntax is going to be, if you want to think about syntax as kind of the grammar, and then the name of the element of what it goes inside the tag, that's the element itself. So the head, the body, and the HTML are the elements, right? But then the syntax is that the fact that there are arrows on either side of it, or the syntax would also be that there's a slash at the beginning of the closing tag. So that would be like saying, well, are the words or the punctuation English? And it's like, well, both, right? The punctuation is the syntax or the grammar, and then the elements themselves are the words inside of the tags.
That'd be like the list or hello world, things along those lines.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the hello world is the content of the element, right? So what's inside of the tag is considered that content. But what's in the tag itself is the element that content is showing up in.
Okay.
I think, Schneider, another good way to think about it, and it's ways I thought about it, because it can be a little confusing, but like when you think about HTML, like we think of words, but we also can look at something and say like that's a paragraph, or we can look at something and say like that's an article, or we can look at something and say like that's a video. Like as we get a little further, you'll see HTML is basically just a way to like tell the computer like, yeah, this is a bunch of words, but like this is a paragraph bunch of words, or this is a, you know, that might make it a little clearer, because it was a little confusing for me at first too, but it gets.
All right.
And I will also say, if you check out the resources section of tonight's outline, it will kind of give you a good breakdown of what HTML structure looks like. We're going to get into CSS after the break, and then also the breakdown of an HTML tag and element. I'm not sharing my screen like an
I'll
idiot.
look into it.
Sorry, this is what it's in the outline for today. So if you are a visual learner, this will help you understand kind of how the tags break down. We'll get into CSS later, and then also like the start tag, the end tag. These are also called the opening tag and the closing tag. And then we'll get into the attributes after the break.
Okay. Understood.
I heard someone. Yep, go ahead.
I keep losing my mouse between these two keyboards. It's crazy. Okay.
So if you jiggle your mouse really quickly, it will actually expand the mouse size so that you can find it easier.
Okay. So there's my code, but this is my file.
Yep.
I
So
mean-
we know immediately what the problem is, because there's a dot right up here. That dot is saying that you have not saved the file. So what you need to do is, if you click into the file down here and go ahead and hit Command S.
This top one, right? Okay.
Yep, Command S.
Yes.
Okay, now notice that dot is gone. It's now an X. That means the file has now been saved. So if you switch back over to the browser and hit Command R, Or click the refresh button, either one. Now everything
Yay.
is in there.
Thank you.
No problem. Don't forget to plug in your laptop during break.
Huh?
Don't forget to plug in your laptop during break.
Oh,
Your
oh.
battery is aggressively low. I noticed it.
Thank you.
Ariel knows how often we screen share, and I flat out yell at students because your battery levels cause me anxiety.
Yeah, I run on red all day. I do. On my phone, on everything. They say it's healthy to let your battery die out.
That is not the case. If you
And then
ask,
get a full charge and leave your phone off at night, right? No?
that is true for batteries from the 1990s. Lithium ion batteries form memories. And so any time that you fully cycle your battery health goes down a percentage.
Are you
So
for real?
if you keep
Wow.
something plugged in, it is much better for the battery to not be used because lithium ion batteries do not form memories. Like the older nickel something, NICAD batteries. Those are the older laptop batteries where that used to be the case. So yeah, it's not good to do that. It's the same thing of if you have an iPhone and quit your apps frequently, or an Android, that is terrible for the phone. Because basically you're not letting the app sleep. Instead, you're forcing them to relaunch every time. So yeah, not good to force quit apps on your phone. Not good to constantly be cycling your battery.
Good to know. I've never been told any different. Thank you.
Clyde, go ahead.
It was the nickel cadmium?
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I knew it was close to the eggs that you eat at Christmas, but I couldn't remember it was what anyway.
I don't know what, oh, like Cadbury. Okay.
Cadbury, cadmium. I was in that vicinity.
Okay.
Clyde, go ahead. You are muted.
I'm lost. I was trying to share the screen. I don't know. It's just
Okay.
lost.
So you're really close. All you're missing is your opening arrows on lines 12, 13, and 14.
Oh, okay. Oh, can you see my screen actually?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I couldn't see that I shared it. It's okay.
Yeah, so all you need is the shift comma at the beginning of the LI, and then you'll be good to go.
Oh, okay, sure. I can do that. Thank you.
No problem. Anyone else need help before we go on break? Okay, we're gonna go on break. We'll be back at 7:30. So we talked about our head tag. That's the stuff that doesn't show up, right? That's telling the browser more information about this page. What's the most common tag that's going to go up here? This is going to be the title tag. And the title tag is what shows up in your browser tab. So if we call this first website, remember that this is the browser inside of, this is the content inside of the tag. And now when we make sure we save and come over here, you'll see that first website shows up in that first tab. Okay, that's all well and good, but there are a lot of tags here, right? And I tried to put in today's outline a couple, a list, an overview of the most common ones. We won't get into things like table or form quite yet today, but there are a couple more that I want to show you, specifically this A tag, the BR, and the IMG. So let's practice with some of those. So an A tag is going to show up just like a link is going to show up. It's called an anchor tag because you're anchoring the page to another page on the internet. So if I pop back over to my code here and I do an A tag, I'm going to put the word Google in here. So I save, I come back over here, I refresh. Here's this word Google, but what do we expect from a link? We expect it to be blue and underlined. Can anyone guess what we're missing in this A tag?
A source.
A source, yep. We've got to be able to send that link somewhere. Where are we linking to? So what we're going to do is we are going to use our first attribute on an element or on a tag. And so an attribute is made up of two parts. So we're going to say href. That's the href. That's where the link is going to go, right? So we're going to say in that href, that is going to be the attribute name. And then the attribute value is what's going to go inside of those quotes. So we're going to say https google.com. Now that we save that, we come back over here and I remember to refresh my page. Look at what's happened. Now that it has an href, it actually knows, oh, that's a link. So when we click on that, it brings us over to Google. And if we hit the back button, that brings us back onto our page. And now it is purple instead of blue. Gonza, go ahead.
We can't see it. We can't see the link that you're clicking on.
Oh, it's at the very bottom of my screen. I'm sorry. Can you see it now?
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to try it myself and see if that works. Okay, perfect.
Schneider, go ahead. Good work.
The anchor tag doesn't have a closer. You know what I mean?
It does right here.
Oh, okay. I was confused for a minute. Gotcha. Never mind.
Okay, so now you're saying, Max, this is all great, but I'm having trouble staying up with your code, right? You're switching between windows. You're all over the place. I would really like to have yet another window on my computer where I can just see your code as you're typing it. Wouldn't it be cool if we just had like a Google Docs level experience where you could have your code up and also see my code as I'm typing it? Well, in fact, you already installed something called LiveShare. So what I am able to do is, give me 1 second to sign into GitHub. Sorry, I have about 14-factor authentication turned on. Give me 1 second. You don't have to be following any of these steps, by the way. Okay, so now I am going to paste a link in the live stream channel in Slack. So I can't actually demo this because I'm the one who's sharing the code. But if you click on this link, it should open a new window in your VS Code that will actually show you the code that I have open right now. When you open that link, you may need to open anonymously, or you can also sign in with GitHub. This step kind of takes everyone a couple minutes to get my code up and running. So I'm going to just pause here for a moment and start a poll. If you are able to see my code, you can, wrong one. You can go ahead and say, sure did. If you're still working on getting it open, don't vote in the poll yet. Just wait until you get it all working. Then you can go ahead and vote. But hopefully you guys all can get through. This is a tough thing to teach because I can't see it, what you guys are going through. So if any questions pop up, just raise your hand. Schneider, do you have a question or was that an old hand raise?
Yeah. Do I still see my own code?
It may close out your existing window. If it does, what you can do is go to File up at the top and down to New Window. Now you'll get a second VS Code window and you can go ahead and reopen your code from here.
Gotcha.
Alba, go ahead.
When I open the link, it says continue in web or open in Visual Studio. Is either way could be done or just
Either way could be done, but you want to do the open in VS Code one because that's going to give you a better experience overall. Great question. Please keep them coming because I can't see what you guys are going through. Jordan, go ahead.
Okay, for getting code for the poll, the check-in, do you mean can I see the Google link on my index?
Or on yours?
You should be able to see my code. So if you can see that if you can see the p tag that I just typed in that says this is new, then you are all good to go. If you cannot, then you need some help.
I cannot. I click live share and then I click share or join.
Okay, so you're not going to go through those steps. You're
Okay.
going to go to Slack and you're going to click on the link that I put into Slack.
In the Slack, okay.
So the link right here in the CIC live stream C4, we will be starting every class out like this, right? So I'm going to open up my files, you're going to open up your files, and then you're going to open up my live share so that you can reference the code as we go throughout class. It's always a little bumpy to get this set up, but once you have it set up, you get into the swing of it, and it makes it much easier to be able to look at my code and kind of see what's going on there without having you to ask me, like, can you paste that in Slack or can you leave that open?
We're in Slack. And
Okay. Now I'm on the Visual Studio Code after following your link.
Okay.
So
Do
now
you have a open in browser or open in VS Code?
It says continue in web or open in Visual Studio Code.
So you're going to pick open in Visual Studio Code.
And then it's telling me to what? It says I don't have it downloaded, but I'm using it.
Is it possible that you don't have it in your applications folder?
No, I do. That's where I open it from.
Go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look.
Okay. Zoom. Share screen. Share.
Okay, so over on that left-hand side, you see it says allow an extension to open this URI. You want to hit open on that.
I'm sorry, I don't see where it says that.
Over in the VS Code window itself, right over here.
Allow an extension to
outside of the browser in VS Code itself.
Ah, okay, my bad.
Okay, no, it just took a minute to
Let me
load.
close this. So much stuff on my
Alright,
screen
now what do I
right
do?
now. Okay.
And then down at the bottom, you can click on continue as anonymous here, unless you would prefer to sign in. Either way is totally fine.
What do I use to sign in?
GitHub.
I haven't made one yet, so I'll just
Okay.
continue as anonymous.
Yep. And then up at the top, it says guest user. You want to delete that out up at the top and type in your name. Okay. And hit enter when you're done. Okay, now you're in my code. And so it will take a minute to join you into the session. And when it does, you'll see this is new. So this is the copy of my code that I have open. But that also just bumped you out of your own code. You're like, whoa, I want that open too. So go up to File up at the top and drop down to New Window. And now in this recent section, you'll see that your D2 folder is there. You can go ahead and click on that. And now that you've got both of them open, so you're caught up and good to go.
Word. Thank you.
Okay, so show me what he did.
Jennifer, you're up next.
Alrighty. So I've done the link.
Okay, share your screen so we can see where you're at.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to Slack and click on the link.
Mhm.
Okay, from here, we're going to say allow because we want it to open in VS Code. And now over there, go ahead and hit open.
Right.
Okay, and then where did it go?
Yeah, and this is still over here telling me I have to
Hit
install it.
try again
Mhm.
and allow and open on the left. Okay. So at this point, VS Code is putting up a fight and we'll put a fight back. So hit Command Q to quit VS Code. And maybe it will behave better on a restart. So go ahead and close that. Go click on the link in Slack again. Allow. Open. There we go. So down at the bottom, you can hit continue as anonymous and go
Okay.
ahead and type your name in at the top. And then you should be able to get it from here. I'm going to lower your hand and move on to the next student. If you get stuck, let me know and we'll come back to you. Bobby, you're up. Oh, sorry. Okay, now you can screen share.
I actually I was having a similar problem, so I think you just kind of answered it for me. But I kept it up just in case, like as I was going through, it didn't fix itself. But I'm out.
Yeah. One thing about live shares, and we've had very positive experiences since we've started using it. But sometimes you're like, I can't see your code anymore. Like I see it on the screen share. I see that you're typing it and mine just isn't refreshing. And sometimes you just have to close out of it and reopen the live share link and then stuff shows up there. So it's a little finicky to get started, but once you get in that habit of opening my link and opening your code, it gets much better to be able to reference that. Okay, so we've got how do we only have okay. We've only got 12 people voting in the poll. Artel, you're up.
I need help.
Yep, go to share screen. Let's take a look.
All right. No, actually, let me do number 1, I think. Let's try number 1.
That is your Slack that's showing.
Right. All right. So I'm gonna click on this.
Yep.
All right. So now, how do I go to screen 2 from here?
You got to stop and restart.
All right.
Or you can just grab that other window and drag it over to this monitor.
I'll do that.
Okay. So in here, we're going to say allow.
Oh, sorry. All right. Allow.
Yep. And then over in your VS Code, which you're going to have to drag over next. Go ahead and hit open on that.
Okay.
Okay, you're having the same problem that other people are having. Your VS Code just needs a reboot. So go ahead and hit quit on that. So Command Q.
So on the screen that you see right here.
Yep, Command Q on that. And
Okay.
remember that quitting and closing are not the same thing on the Mac. Quitting is the more serious one. Okay, now you can go ahead and hit try again there. And allow. And open. And now down at the bottom, you've got that continue as anonymous. So that's what you want to click on. And now you can type in your name up at the top and hit enter. And now if you give it a minute, it's going to connect into my computer and you'll be able to see the this is new p tag that's in there.
I
So
see that.
next step from here, that bumped out your code. You want to have your code open at the same time, right? So if you go to File up at the top, you can drop down to New Window. And then you can just click on the D2 under Recent, and that's going to pop open your code. And you're good to go.
So mine is still, I guess, opening it in Safari instead of opening it in VS Code.
That's fine. It will always open it in Safari. And then you'll hit allow and it will bring you over to VS Code.
Yeah, but it's not like in the app itself. So when I go to try to open up like the
So go
file,
ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look. Okay, so go ahead and close that tab in Safari. And that one as well. And pop open Slack again and click on the link. And give it a second. Why is it not opening that pop-up? Let me request remote control. If you can hit allow on that. And then open system preferences. Click on the lock in the bottom left. Use your password or fingerprint, check off Zoom. Okay, let me come in here now and see what I can do. So it is, just make sure that you've got VS Code in the right spot. You do. So I'm gonna make sure your extension is installed, which it is. I'm gonna go over to here and pop this open. As anonymous, enter, it should let you join it. Okay, now why is that? Here's code. Okay, I do not know why it is not popping that open in your code. So I'm going to show you the alternative method. And this is good for everyone to pay attention to see this alternative. If you right click on the link, you can hit copy link, then head back over to your VS Code, and in your VS Code, go to the live share section. And then right here, there's a join link. So if you click on join there, it's going to pop this up at the bottom. You can say continue as anonymous, enter your name, and then just paste in that link that you just copied from Slack and hit enter. And that will also bring you into it. So it's not quite as convenient as clicking on the link, but that's kind of the back way of getting into it.
appreciate it.
No problem. Let me just do this quickly. And open all rooms. Okay. Jennifer, would you prefer to stay here or go into a breakout with Ariel?
A breakout would be fine.
Okay, I just opened that up for you, so you should be able to join in there.
Thank you.
No problem. Does anyone else have questions? Feel like we're understanding why we have the live share. We got our code up, we've got my code up. You guys are going to get used to positioning your monitors, whether it's virtual desktop or whether you keep my code up on the big monitor and your code up on the small monitor. Whatever it is, everyone gets into their own flow there. There's a lot of switching back and forth. And for a very long time, you're going to be like, well, my code looks just like his. And then you're going to be like, oh, that is his code. That isn't my code, right? And you're going to switch back and get used to keeping both of those up. We give you plenty of time to kind of settle into that. You get comfortable with that HTML, and then bam, we hit you with the back end and even more monitors to keep open. I'm sorry, even more windows to keep open. We won't give you any more monitors. Don't worry. You only get one external monitor. You'll get used to that practice and being able to reference my code and being able to keep up in your own code. With that said, I just want to give you guys the reminder, not everyone is going to learn by following along. Some people may follow along in their notes and try it after class and find that to be a much less stressful experience than trying to stay up during class. That, again, is going to take time to settle into. Tomorrow's class, we're going to do this live share. It's going to take everyone 20 minutes to get it open. And some people are going to be tearing their hair out because they can't get it working. And some people are going to be bored out of their mind because they got it all open. That gets better over time. I promise you, you get settled into it. You get used to popping open all those windows at the beginning of class, creating folders, all of that stuff. By week 4, week 5, you're going to be so used to this stuff. You're like, yeah, Max, don't show us how to create the folders. We're on it. We're creating it at the beginning of class. We will get a little bit better there. Okay, any questions before I continue here?
Can we edit your code or is it locked?
No, it is locked. You cannot edit my code.
Gotcha.
I have a question. So,
Sure. Yep.
So it may be a silly question. So I cannot do any changes in the output I am getting, right? Whatever I change, that should be in my coding thing. It shouldn't be in the output one, right?
Share, what do you mean by the output one?
The one which we are going to the Google Chrome and checking whether or whatever changes we made. So we shouldn't change anything there.
No,
like
no,
manually.
No.
Okay.
Not yet, not yet.
Okay.
We're going to get back into that mode though. So we're going to keep working on that page. Now that you've got my code up and your code up, now you can actually follow along with what I'm adding into it. But we're going to get back into that swing in just a couple minutes. Alba, go ahead.
So is the live share stream the one that we're going to be using constantly? That's the link that we go to every single day?
Unfortunately, that link changes every day. There's no way for me to like keep that same link. So that live stream channel exists for that very reason, right? Whenever I've got something during class that I want to dump into the so everyone has, I'll dump it in there. With that said, that live share link will stop working at the end of class at 8:30. When I shut down my computer, that live share doesn't work anymore. So at the end of the night, I'll dump in whatever code I have into Slack so you guys can reference it from there. Great question.
How do you feel about saving code to like copy pasting it to like a Google Doc for reference?
That's totally fine. I will warn everyone. You won't get you won't get the hang of typing the syntax and getting good at it unless you practice. So there's always going to be that temptation of, oh, Max's code is right there. Let me just copy and paste this in. Or, oh, I'm falling behind. Let me just throw this in and then I'll be all caught up. You will never get into the swing of it unless you practice typing all of that out. I had someone at the end of last cohort say, so do you actually type code that fast? Or do you have this like all pre-programmed during class and you just hit a button and it appears? I said, no, I actually type code that fast. And some people don't, they're like, I'll never get to that level. But you just give it time because you get very used to, you probably never used that arrow before, or you never knew that that was on the keyboard, or we're going to be using semicolons all the time. And you're like, I haven't used a semicolon since high school, right? Like, we're going to get into the swing where that becomes muscle memory and you do get better at not fighting VS Code. So that is something that it takes time to settle into, but you will get better at it. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Shoot.
I'm not familiar with the commands, you know, command and etc. So I just literally do like shift and all that. Is that fine?
So you'll want to learn the keyboard commands. One thing we have found is you're going to be really slow if you're using the mouse to right click and copy, or go all the way
No.
up to edit and down to copy.
No, doing like, on the keyboard, like shift and the back arrow, semicolon, like, you know. On a keyboard, typing it out yourself.
So the general
Like
syntax,
the arrows, the semicolon, the backward slash.
that all comes with time.
Okay,
Yeah, you get more comfortable using that over time. I will
like I
say,
just use the shift on the keyboard and then use the actual number bar. I'm not using a command. You know what I'm saying?
there is no command. There is nothing
Oh,
to.
okay, all right. I'm just making sure.
Yep. Nope.
Cool.
Type in those symbols is that's normal. There is no command.
Okay.
Okay. So let's move on here. So we use that A tag, right? And this A tag is the first special thing that we've seen because we've got a link now showing up, right? And the browser says, hey, that's an A tag. We know where to send them because of this href. This href is the attribute, and this is the attribute name. And then anything on the right side of the equal sign, this is all going to be the attribute value in here. But there are a couple other fun ones that we can use. I'm going to go on to a website called unsplash.com. And you guys can follow along if you would like. You don't have to. Unsplash is a website full of royalty-free images. That means that there are no copyrights on these images. So when you're building a website, you can't just say, oh, that's pretty, I want to use that image, and copy it and use it yourself. That's copyright infringement, right? So Unsplash is a great source to find copyright-free images that you can use in your own website. So I'm just going to scroll down and I'm going to just pick a random one here. This one looks cool. So I'm going to pick this one. When I have this open in Unsplash, I'm going to right click. Remember, that's a command, control and a single click on the trackpad, or a 2-finger tap to right click it. I'm then going to go down to copy image address, and I'm going to click on that. Now, it doesn't look like anything happened, but that did copy into the clipboard. So I'm going to go back over to my code, and I'm going to delete out this p tag that we don't need anymore. And I'm going to do an img. Now, you would think that this would say href because that's what makes sense. That's what's in the link. But instead, an image uses a different attribute name. It uses src for source. Once I put that src in there, I'm going to hit Command V, and it's going to paste in this super long link. So I need to go all the way to the end of this link, and we're going to put in a slash and our closing arrow. Now, this is a little different. This is what we call a self-closing tag. We'll get into that in 1 second. Let's save our index.html. We're going to go back over to our first website tab and refresh. And here is this gigantic image in our page. Let's stop there and see if anyone has questions. So the poll is asking, did you get your image to show up in the browser? It's going to be huge, but it should be showing up. You want me to go through the steps again?
If you could just scroll to the beginning of the tag
yep.
again. Thank you.
And you can always check in my live share link as well to see what that looks like.
So we can actively like move along as well in it, or that question sounded. Oh, gotcha. Thank you.
It will live update like a Google Doc does. So like when you see someone else typing, it will auto refresh for you. Yeah, you'll get frustrated very quickly because I'll be helping other students and you'll be like, I just need to see his code again. So using that live share is for that. And if anyone is lost or needs help, just raise your hand.
Lex, how would you see this this image on another tab?
You would have to like link to another page.
I see. Okay, so copy paste.
You mean like have it be in its own HTML page?
Correct.
Okay, so there are two ways of doing that. One, you could create a new file. Oh, hold off on that question. We're gonna link to another page, if not tonight, tomorrow, and then that will become more obvious. All right, we only got 9 votes in. Who can I help? Is anyone stuck anywhere? So the way I use the poll is I can't see who's voted, but I can see how many people have voted. So when I know, hey, we only have 10 votes in out of 16, that means some of you guys are still working on it.
What did you say you put at the end of the the image?
You're going to put the slash, a regular slash that's on the question mark key, and the closing arrow. I'm going to just try something here to see if this works. Okay, that should make our code a little bit more manageable. Anyone need help? $13 out of 16 votes in. Last call for help before I move on here. Okay, so we've got something weird kind of going on here, right? Here's our opening image tag, but where's our closing image tag? This is what's called a self-closing tag. You see this little sneaky slash in here? We put it at the end of this image tag right here, and that closed itself. So we don't need any information inside the image tag, inside the content of the image tag. We can close an image tag within itself and not need to do this here. So normally we would do that, right? But because we don't have anything to go inside of this tag, what we're able to do is delete that closing tag and just use a slash inside of it to close its own tag. So we've got our image tag in here, and this is great and all, but we're over here, and this image is freaking huge. We want to size that down. So we are going to write our first CSS statement. CSS stands for cascading style sheets, and we're going to ease our way into CSS. So to get started, we've got our source tag here. That's just an attribute. We can use another attribute on our image tag. And that, I'm just going to put in some line spacing here so it's a little bit easier to read. I'm going to put in style, and I'm going to say style equals something. Now from that style, we can put in specific CSS properties. And just like the HTML, I listed out some of the most common ones on the outline. We're going to ease our way into these though. So for the style, I'm going to say width. And I put a width and a colon, and then it needs to know what width would I like for this image. So I'm going to pick something. I'm going to say 200 pixels, which is 200 px, and I'm going to put a semicolon in there. Now, this is very specific syntax, so you got to get it right. Style equals a quote, the word width, a colon, not a semicolon, a colon. That's going to be a shift and the key next to L. Then I'm going to type in 200 as the number. I'm going to type in px, that stands for pixel, and I'm going to put a semicolon at the end of it. If I save that, head back over to my browser and remember to refresh, there's my image, and it's nice and small for me, or smaller at least.
Question.
Yes.
This has to do with the link itself. When you shorten the link, how do you know how far to shorten it, I guess?
Yeah, that's a little trick. That's a little more advanced of a topic. But basically, when you find the question mark in the link, you can delete the question mark and anything after it, and it normally will still work.
Normally.
It's a
Gotcha.
very loaded question that I will not tangent myself down. Jordan, go ahead.
So after the image line, and I closed the tag with a slash and a closer. What do I oh, okay, so I put style and width beneath it. That's why. My bad. I figured it out.
We like those questions.
I didn't figure it out. Why is it not indenting to where your source and style is?
So you may need to tab this individually. I kind of hit the enter button and then tab things over just so it was easier to all fit it all onto one screen. We'll get into code formatting, having the computer do the code formatting for us a little bit later. But for now, it's good to get the manual practice of indenting things yourself.
Okay. Then I am good.
Cool. Go ahead.
So I did all of that. I put everything that you have on yours. But mine is still big.
Okay, go ahead, share your, nope. Go ahead and share your screen.
Maybe I did something wrong. I don't know.
So these little syntax things are what you will get annoyed of very quickly throughout the cohort of me realizing what the problem is and then helping you find it as we go.
Okay. Let me go. I can't go back to my, okay, perfect. Oh, no, I know where it is. Nope, down here. Yep. Nope, just kidding, back. Nope.
Can you start your screen share?
Oh, I didn't?
No. There you go. Okay. So let's scroll all the way to the end of the source tag. Actually, before you do, you notice how this is in red and then down here, that's no longer in red. Those two should be in red together. So what that tells me is there's something wrong at the end of your source tag that is causing this style tag to also not be red. So if you scroll horizontally kind of all the way to the end of the URL.
Hold on, sorry, I can't.
Oh, click in the window. Sometimes when I draw on the screen, it locks your cursor out. So scroll over to the right. Yep. And there's your problem. That ending tag is saying, hey, the image is done here. We don't want the image to be done, though, until after the style tag. So go ahead and delete out the closing arrow and the slash, and then scroll all the way back over and save. And notice now our style is back in red and our closing slash is also in red. So that's a good sign. And if you refresh, you're good to go.
Perfect. All right, yay, thank you.
Good work.
See?
And you can always Command R to refresh in case the Zoom toolbar is in the way. If you just click on the window and then Command R, that will also refresh it for you. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Jennifer. Oh, you're muted.
I was in the room with Ariel for a bit, so I put in the image.
Yep.
And the style. I don't have it underlined. I missed that, so I just copied what you had.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen. Let's see where you're at and if we can kind of rocket boost you back.
So what do I need to do to make it underlined?
Yeah, so the only problem that I see, one is you've got a closing image tag here. We shouldn't close that image out yet. These are all attributes that go inside of it, just like the href does.
Okay.
So down here, on 26, you want to put in a closing slash. So slash on the question mark key, and then a closing arrow as well. So a shift period. And then go ahead and save that. And the other thing I noticed is that you've got a dot dot here instead of a slash slash.
Oop, yep. Okay.
And save that. And then let's hop back over to your browser and hit the refresh button.
I got something wrong with the Google link, but that's okay for now.
The only thing wrong with the Google link is you've got an extra arrow in there.
Oh. I kept looking back at yours. I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Thank you.
No problem. So if you save and refresh, you'll see, don't forget to save in VS Code first. So I know you didn't save in VS Code because you've got the dot up here, which means that this file isn't saved.
I must not have been clicked into the window.
Yep. So there you go. Now you're saved. And if you refresh, you will be good to go.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. And I can stay on after class to figure out what's going on with your live share if you guys didn't figure out the weird workspace locking thing. Okay, any other questions on this?
Can you just tell me if I have mine right, please?
Yeah, share screen. If you can see an image and it isn't ginormous, you're good to go.
Then I'm not.
Okay.
Can you see? Oh, do I have to bring it over? Hold on.
Yeah. Okay, so definitely big. Bring your VS Code over for me. Okay, so we've got some stuff going on here. So this closing slash is what we want to close this up here. But you've got a closing slash here that's confusing the computer. So we want to delete out that one.
Okay.
So just click and backspace twice. Okay, now down here, you've got this weird closing style tag going on. We don't need to close the style tag because it's just an attribute on the HTML.
Okay.
So go ahead and delete out, starting at that arrow and then going out to the rest of that line.
This whole, all this?
Yep. And then just put a closing quote there because we've got an opening quote at the beginning of the style tag. We need a closing quote as well. So just hit the double quote key. Nope, the quotes.
Okay.
It's going to be shift and the button next to return.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
And for some reason, you've got two of them. So move your cursor over to the right one. Oh, nope. Put your quote in. And then move the cursor over and delete. Okay. And then the last thing you need is it has 200 in there and it's like 200 what? You've got to tell it it's 200 px before the semicolon.
I had px in there and I don't know what happened. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now save and go ahead back to your browser and refresh and you should be good to go.
Oh no.
Just hit the back button.
Hold on. I can't see. I have I'm like hitting my, hold on. There we go. I couldn't get it. Yay. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, good to move on. Okay, so we have started doing our styling, right? And this is CSS. This is a different syntax, and we'll get more exposure to that. We can use CSS to do all different kinds of styling. So if I go all the way up to my H1, I can put a style tag on that, and I can say I would like my color to be purple.
Oops, sorry.
You're fine, I got you. Okay, so I put a style color purple on that, and VS Code even gave me a little preview of that rectangle of what that purple is going to look like. So if I save that and go over to my browser and refresh, I get my purple hello world. Now, if I want, I can put multiple properties here. So I can, after the semicolon, I can say, hey, I would like my font family to be Arial. And if I save that, you notice my hello world font changed a little bit. That's separated by these semicolons here. And we're starting to get into our CSS syntax and understand it a little bit more. This is called a CSS property. Those are all the different properties of what we're styling that we can change. And this is called the CSS value. So anything on the left side of the colon is considered the property. Anything on the right side of the value is considered the value, or the right side of the colon is considered the value. And whenever we end a line of CSS, we put a semicolon in between it so we can target multiple things if we want to. But what if I want to make all of my paragraphs turn purple? Well, I could go through, and you don't have to follow me along on this step, and put a style equals purple on all of these, right? But that's going to be really a lot of code, and it's going to get hard to manage and read very quickly, right? So I could do that on all of them, but that's going to get out of hand. So what if there was some way that we could move our style to a separate section of our code? Well, we talked about this already a little bit, right? We said, hey, this is going to show up. Now these two paragraphs are in purple. But there was a special section of our code that we could put things that the browser would not show to the end user, but would know that it's some information that the browser needs to style everything. That is going to go up in our head section. So we're going to use a style tag in here. And what that style tag is doing is it's telling the browser, heads up, whatever is coming in this section, excuse me, is going to be CSS. It's not going to be HTML. But now we run into a problem. We can't just say color purple here because it's like, well, what do you want to be the color purple? We need to tell the computer we want to select certain items and have those items turn purple. So what I'm going to do is I need to specify the selector. The selector I'm specifying is the P tag, is this paragraph tag, is the HTML element. And then I'm going to put curly braces, and in here, I can specify whatever I would like to happen to that. So I can say the color is going to now be green. And I'm going to say that the font weight is going to be bold. So I come back over here, I refresh, and we run into an interesting scenario going on. It did go bold. Those are now in bold, but they're still purple. Well, that's weird. My P tag's working. This code is getting applied to the P tag because it's in bold. Well, what's happening here is this style tag on the element itself is overwriting, is cascading over the color green that I have up here. Whenever you have inline styles, they are going to override anything that you have in a style tag. So what we do is we just say, oh, we're going to delete this out. We don't want anything. We want this one to be green, and maybe we want to override this one and still have it be purple. So I come over here. Now I've got this one in green, and this one is still in purple because we left our color purple in here. If we take that color purple out and save, now we have them both in green. So we've covered two different places we can put CSS. We can put the CSS right on the style tag. We can put the CSS in its own style tag in the head. And then we got one other place we can put it. I'm going to pause there. Does anyone have questions?
Why didn't my purple come up? Was it a syntax thing? Probably it was,
Probably a syntax thing. Do you want to share your screen?
yeah, could I just didn't want to stop somebody else's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. So let's see here.
So your style is not inside of your tag, right? So the tag ends right at that closing arrow there. So if you pop that one out and save
Mm-hmm.
and go back over to your browser and refresh.
Okay.
You're good to go.
Awesome. It was a syntax. Is that what it's called?
Yep. Syntax.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Is there a version more efficient? Like, should you do the one where you like made your own style tag, or should you just write the style within the element syntax, whatever?
We're gonna cover the third one in 1 second. Okay, so we're in our code here, and I know we're almost at the end of class. I've got 2 more quick things to show you. So we keep on editing things in here, right? So if we just change this to blue, for example, we always have to come back here and refresh, and that's really annoying. Wouldn't it be nice if our computer was like, I don't know, smart enough to know when we saved our file and automatically refresh for us? What we're going to do is go ahead and close out of your tab. I know it's not gone forever. Just close it out. And then back in VS Code, down here at the bottom, do you guys have a Go Live button? Go ahead and click on that Go Live. And what you're going to see is it opens up our page for us. And it may open it up a little funny. It's got this weird number up at the top. Don't worry about that number. But if we're over here and I change my color from blue to red and just hit Command S, look at what happened in the background. I didn't even open the browser yet, and it live updated for me. So this is a quick way to say, ooh, you know what? I don't like that red. Maybe I like magenta a little bit more. As soon as I hit Command S, you'll see it updates in the browser for me and live updates. Okay. Go ahead. Agonza.
Oh, hi. Sorry. I don't have that go live.
Okay. If you
Oh, go ahead.
if you right click down here, which is a 2-finger right click.
Just kidding, I do.
Okay, goodbye.
Thank you.
We had one student who didn't have it last cohort and had the extension installed, and it was like a solid 45-minute goose chase in order to get it to show up. So I'm glad you have it. Okay, the last thing we are going to do is we saw what our style looks like in an inline element with the style attribute and the value of the attribute being the CSS. We got a little bit into our selector a little bit where we said, hey, select all P tags and attach these 2 style properties to it. But there's a third way of doing it because this kind of gets annoying, right? This gets annoying that we've got our CSS intermixed with our HTML. And if we have multiple HTML pages, we may want to share those styles with all the different pages. We are going to cover the third way of doing it. We're going to go over to the file area. We're going to go over to the new file again, and we're going to create a file called style.css. And inside my style.css, I'm going to say, randomly grab any H3 tag. And in that H3, go ahead and turn the text decoration to underline. So we went over here, we did new file. We called it style.css. In that file, we put an H3 in here. We put the curly brace in and said, hey, anything between these 2 curly braces is going to apply to any H3. Then we put in our text decoration and said the text decoration that we would like to apply is underline.
Oh, that's so fast. H3.
So I'm going to put my style.css down here on the bottom of my window so that you can refer to it. And then my index.html is up here at the top. Now, this is the last thing we're going to do tonight. So I'm just going to do one final push. If we come over here, this is my H3. And if I refresh, it's not underlined. Well, our CSS is chilling over here. And it's like, yeah, all this is cool. But we didn't tell our index, hey, index, go use our style sheet. So we do that up in the head, just like we do our actual style tag. So what we're able to do is use a new element called link. And link can link to a bunch of different things. So we've got to tell it a couple things. We give it a rel. What is it relative to? We're going to say the rel is a style sheet. So we say rel style sheet, because the style sheet is a cascading style sheet, CSS. Then we also need to tell it, well, where is that style sheet? So we're going to use our old friend called href and say that is in style.css. And then we borrow our self-closing tag from our image element, because the browser doesn't need to know anything else about the link. It's able to pull all of that information in from there. So we pause there. If we save and come over, you'll see our underline is showing up. And if you got your underline showing up, you're done for the day and you are good to head out. If you have any terms that popped up tonight, go ahead and write them down. We'll use that as our review for getting tomorrow kicked off. Any feedback that you have from tonight's class? Ariel just dropped in the
I have
chat.
a question.
Raise your hand for me just so everyone's in order, and I will get to you next.
I don't know where the hand raising thing is.
So in Zoom, it's down at the bottom toolbar. There should be something that says raise hand. It may be under reactions.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
So I did all of that. I have it written down like you do for the link. But somehow it's not showing up.
Go ahead, share the screen.
Yep.
So you're gonna get sick of me saying this. What does this little dot up here mean?
I really did save it. Oh, I didn't save this. Ha ha ha.
So save that and then swap over to your browser and refresh. And let's see if you got some underline magic going on.
Let's see. Yep.
You're good to go.
Thank you.
No problem. Christina, go ahead. Nope. You gotta unmute. Okay.
Okay. Oh, so I can't get the style part right. I had it right. Wait, am I okay? Yeah, that's mine.
So you're telling it the H1 tag is done here, and then that you're starting another tag here. You don't want to do that. You don't want that H1 tag to end until right here. So what you want to do is take out these two arrows here. Yep. And then put a space in between the H3. Sorry, let me clear up that stuff. Okay. And you're good to go. So if you go ahead and save that. Command S to save. Maybe click in the window first and then hit Command S. It's still not saved.
There we go.
Okay, now go back to your browser and refresh.
Thank you.
No problem. Nyasha, you're up next. And I apologize if I'm butchering names. We've got a homework assignment posting on Thursday where you can phonetically spell your name. And I promise starting Monday, I will get everyone's names right, or at least attempt a better job at that.
Okay, you got my name right, but
Oh, good.
I'm just trying to figure out. I still can't find that sharing thing, so you don't have to refresh the page. That part.
Oh, okay. Yep. Go ahead and share your screen in Zoom and let's take a look.
Okay.
Should say live server down at the bottom, but if you don't have it, we're gonna get you there.
I keep doing the wrong one, huh? I think it's.
Hey, Max. Do you
Yep.
mean the style.css in your line 4 of your VS Code? Is that
Yes.
what we're looking to see if that's underlined?
You're looking to see if the H3, which says this is a slightly smaller header, is underlined.
Okay.
Okay, so your button is there in the bottom right. It says go live.
Oh, I was looking in the wrong spot. Thank you.
No problem. Does anyone want a breakout room with Ariel? Does anyone feel so far behind that they could do with some one-on-one attention? If not, I'll just keep working through everyone as hands go up. Okay, Artel, you're up. Artel, sorry.
Artrell.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm still working on the H3. I think I did 2 subsections, and I think I'm trying to work on getting it fixed. So let me share my screen.
Go for it. I am oddly like locked out of Zoom controls. Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. So first thing I noticed right off the bat, you've got a couple different files open. So you've got. Okay, give me 1 second. I need to leave and come right back.
Okay.
You will be right.
Ariel, can I do a breakout room?
Who asked that? Sorry, it didn't do the mic for me on co-host.
Oh, Jennifer. Mhm.
Yep. Got one right for you now. Okay.
Max, I think your mic is muted.
It sure is. Thank you. So save.
Okay.
Command S. Okay, and head back over to the browser and refresh. Okay, so we still don't have an underline. So let's go back to our index.html.
All right, so I see it. You see my CSS here?
Yep.
All right, I kind of did it up there before, so I need to delete this one.
Yep, so just right click on that and you should be able to delete or move to trash. Okay, and now let's go to your index.html. And you're missing that link line. So I'm going to let you work on that yourself. It's this link line right here in my code. You need to take that and put that into your head code over here.
All right. I've been like trying to hand type it myself. Should I just like copy it and paste it for expediency?
The hand typing is the way to go. It's the only way you're going to get that muscle memory. So I would encourage you to hand type it.
All right. So after title here.
Yep.
Type in the link code below.
You got it. And once you save
style?
that and refresh it in the browser, you should have your H3 be underlined.
Okay.
You're close.
Okay.
I'm going to lower your hand. If you still run into problems, just re-raise it.
All right. Thank
Alba,
you.
go ahead.
So, can you see my screen?
I can. So
mine is underlined, but my style went red.
So you are missing your closing arrow that I have right here.
Okay.
And it's kind of hard to see because it's yellow on your screen. So that's all a slash and the closing arrow. Yep. And now if you save, you'll see your peep tag disappeared, your styling, and now you've got your underline going on as well.
All right, thank you. I just couldn't see that information.
Yeah, sorry. That was my bad for leaving it highlighted. Good work. Jordan, you're up next. And once you guys have that working, you're welcome to head out. There's not going to be any other tidbits of content tonight. We're already 10 minutes over.
No, I'm actually good. While you were talking, I figured it out. It's just that when I guess I typed in link REL and then the equals sign, I added my own quotation mark instead of, yeah.
Yep, that will do it. Awesome. Any other questions for tonight? Now that was a lot, but
I have one.
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so if I share my screen with you, you can see like how it's set up. Okay, can you see that?
Yep, you're good.
Where'd my mouse go? Okay, so I have the line, but I thought I did all of this right.
You're missing a
'cause I don't-
semicolon after the word green.
Okay.
And also
then-
keep in, okay,
Okay.
yeah. Yep, you're good. So go ahead and hit save on that.
Control S or Command
Yep,
S.
Command
Okay.
S, yep. And then you can check in the browser and see if that got it working.
And it keeps giving me this error when I go live, but I do have, well, there's a couple more things. Okay, so we got green, good. Styles and purple. Okay, so that's good. And then what's with these three windows? I don't
Oh,
know where I clicked. but
Just
I-
go ahead and click the little close icon right. Oh, nope. Close the icon there, and that will
Oh.
get you rid of all your extras.
Okay, and then the next thing is say I go here, say I did a list number 4.
Yep.
When I put in, because I think it's a setting, I didn't get a chance to set everything up. But it should automatically do it. Like it should automatically put the cursor right here instead of me having to click and put it there.
No, it will leave you inside of the tag because once you create your tag, it assumes that you want to add content into it. So it will not move you outside of it.
So we just get accustomed to the arrows with that.
Yeah.
And then, okay. Okay, I think that's it.
Cool. Just be careful on that one. You've got LIL instead of just LI. But other than that, you're good to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so
Is there a way that we can send this as a link to someone so they can see it, or is this just for our eyes?
Just for your eyes only.
Okay, cool.
We will not cover that until week 6 in DevOps, and then you will learn how to deploy your website to production, which is kind of like publishing it on the internet.
Okay, cool. Yay. All right. Sounds great. Other than that, I don't have any other questions. Have a good night.
See you guys.
Bye.
Last call for any other questions.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I just have my question is, oh, it went away. Okay, so we created the style CSS on the side of index because we're trying to just put the underline in the sentence in the index HTML, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that, so I was like connecting.
Yeah, we kind of did like 3 progressive levels, right? So the first one, we were like, throw inline styling in there. We've got a p tag, style it like this. Then we moved up a level and we said, we're going to put a style tag in the head and we can target like multiple things all of the same one. So we can get all the p tags in there. Then we did one more step further and went, okay, that's in our HTML still. What if we can put it in a separate file and still target the same stuff? And that's what we did with the link REL style sheet.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, there we go.
Artrell.
Have a nice day.
You
A
too.
nice night.
It's pretty awesome.
Good night.
Night. Night.
Can you hear me, Max?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, so I'm gonna lower my hand and I'm gonna show you my screen. I think it came out. I just had to kind of follow the format you did. I just have to go over it to make sure I'm learning the concepts better.
Sure.
All right, so you can see what I put.
Yep.
And you can see how it came out.
Yep. And then you can also connect those concepts. So if you go to your style.css, that other file.
Oh, right here.
Yep. You've got your text decoration underline, right? So what you're doing is you're targeting a CSS property, which has a certain value of underline. And those values are going to apply to any H3 that's on the page. So if you switch back to your index.html, what we're doing with this style.css is we're pulling this file from right here and bringing it into your HTML right here. So now that we've got that H3 underline going on, when we see the what's going on, that's in the H3 element. So it's going to connect into this file and actually be styled out.
All right, so if I went to style CSS and I made another line and I'll put, let's say H6 text decoration, I did like italics.
Yep.
And then I went here and I did it, if I did it correctly, anything with an H6 would be in italics.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Got to practice it, but I think I understand the concept.
It's all about practice. Believe it or not, this is like 90% of everything that we learn is all in day 1 of Intro to HTML. Everything from here on out is just practice, practice, practice.
Okay.
Can confirm.
All right.
And sorry I wasn't here yesterday. I'm just taking care of like business.
I totally get it. You've got a lot going on. And it's always hard to come in the day after class and be a little bit behind, but you did great. You're all caught up, so you're good to go.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Good night.